Chapter 239. Thea stared at the shiny sword in her hand. She knew that it was useless to complain to Hippolyte because Ares took advantage of the gap when she was holding the sword. The two were too close, and it was too late for her to draw her bow. In the face of Ares's powerful spear, she could only muster up her energy to deal with it. In the blink of an eye, Thea dodged 4 or 5 moves. Ares seemed to be a little puzzled by her dodging and not fighting back. He thought that she was plotting something and did not go all out. However, the difference in the level of martial arts between the two was too big. Ares's god of war was a combination of the essence of countless warriors from ancient and modern times. Even if the factors such as divine power were removed, Thea's short 2 years of learning could not compare to the fusion of countless warriors in terms of pure martial arts. Even if he called the ninja master over to compete with him, he would still lose, let alone Thea. Seeing that Thea's move was over, Ares's spear pierced towards her face. In desperation, Thea could only choose to block with her sword. She also made up her mind that if the sword was broken, she would immediately switch positions with the shadow clone on the ground. She did not want to use this move unless it was a last resort. The sacrifice of the shadow clone was not worth mentioning, and it could be summoned with a little stamina. However, without the help of the skateboard, she could not outrun Ares. Clang! The sword and spear collided. Although Thea's strength was suppressed to the extreme, the sword was as good as new. There was no trace of it being broken. Was this the real Godslayer? Thea could not understand the original plot now. Why was it that when Diana used it, it was broken by Ares's hand, but when she used it, it was fine? She did not believe that Thea was the destined protagonist. She only knew that there was an inside story that she did not know. With a nervous heart, she exchanged a few more moves. There was no problem with the sword at all. There was even a faint feeling of joy from the sword. What was going on? Thea had asked Diana before, but she did not feel any emotion from the sword. Although the sword would not break into pieces for a while, Thea could fully display her martial arts skills. However, her skills were still far from Ares's. Even though Ares didn't know whether the sword was real or fake, when he saw that Thea had started to fight back, he knew that he was wrong. Thea didn't have any ulterior motives. Ares threw away all his worries and started to attack Thea quickly. He wanted to send his doppelganger to help Diana deal with the 2 barbarian warriors before coming to her aid. However, Ares's attacks were getting faster and faster. Without the support of her doppelganger, Thea would not be able to last more than 30 moves. Thea barely managed to block Ares's sweep. With the help of her opponent's strength, Thea was finally able to put some distance between them. Fandral, buy me some time. Thea aimed her right hand at Ares and released the elk from her ring. The elk was also very experienced in combat. She didn't need to say anything. It grew bigger and charged at Ares in an instant. Its sharp antlers pushed against Ares and it ran a few miles away. Thea floated on the ground and faced her doppelganger. She was ready to cast a spell that was far beyond her current ability. Shadow Labyrinth. She began to chant the spell in a low voice, while her doppelganger continued to gather energy and draw magic lines. This spell relied on the talent of the Chosen One, the assistance of the doppelganger, and the magic arrow of the divine longbow. Finally, Thea completed the spell when the elk was about to cry out. In order to cast this spell, her magic was almost exhausted. She recalled her doppelganger and finally regained some of her mobility. After attaching the magic to the arrow, he sensed the location of the elk and opened the Eye of Horus. He saw Ares rushing towards him. Then he arched his body and pointed at the sky, aiming at Ares from a distance, and shot the arrow. She had fired the arrow using the light arrow technique. The speed of the arrow was close to the extreme. With the help of the divine power of the Eye of Horus, the arrow pierced straight towards Ares' heart. Ares was a god after all. He had rich experience in fighting enemies. He didn't expect Thea's arrow to be so fast. He only reacted when the arrow was in front of his eyes. The violent friction between the dark energy on the arrow and the air almost brought out lightning. It was obvious how dangerous this arrow was. With countless years of combat intuition, his body instinctively took a step to the side. This magic arrow, which represented Thea's current highest level, pierced through the right side of his chest plate. That's all. Sigh, what is this? Ares was actually severely injured, but his pride did not allow him to be defeated by mortals. Even if he was defeated, he did not want to lose and continued to roar. But before he could finish his sentence, he saw a ball of dark shadow energy wrapping around him in the opposite direction, as if trying to drag him somewhere. This was a high-level spell. Although Ares had never seen this spell, he could still judge the level of the energy. This thing definitely didn't suck him in to treat him to a meal. He began to struggle. If he was in perfect condition, even this level of spell wouldn't be able to do anything to him. There was a natural gap between gods and humans. But now he was just a clone. His divine power had no source. Every time he used it, it would be depleted. After being suppressed by Thea's talent and being tortured by her back and forth several times, 20% of his divine power had been consumed. Considering that he still had to deal with Diana, who was almost in perfect condition, Ares hesitated. The elk had fought with the goddess for many years. He had rich combat experience, or rather, he was very cunning. Seeing Ares's hesitation, the elk ran a few steps and pushed him in under Ares's furious gaze. Go support Diana, Thea ordered the elk in her mind. She was slowly recovering her magic power. Ares was only temporarily trapped. With his ability, there was no doubt that he could get out of the shadow labyrinth. It was just a matter of time. Diana would have to be the main force in the upcoming battle. Diana was anxious at first. She didn't realize it before, but when the situation became critical, she realized her own shortcomings. First of all, she couldn't fly, so she was entangled by the two musclemen. Second, she didn't have any powerful moves. Although her shield had swollen the two barbarian warriors' faces, the actual effect was not great. Now, with the help of the elk, he quickly got out of the predicament. He took out the lasso of truth and threw the two people on the ground with all his strength until they turned into white smoke and disappeared. He felt that he had vented his anger. Thinking of Sia, he hurriedly ran to her side. Are you okay? Seeing that Diana didn't ask Ares but asked her first, Thea was happy. What did this mean? It meant that the strategy was successful. But she also knew that now was not the time to joke. Ares could come out at any time. Thea wanted to return the Godslayer to Diana, but she didn't expect Diana to wave her hand. The Godslayer wanted me to throw it to you. Chose you. You are its real master. Chapter 240. What? The fake sword has recognized me as its master? Thea scrutinized the sword that was still emitting a golden glow. She did not know how powerful the sword was, but its appearance was definitely top-notch. Seeing that Thea was observing the sword, Diana was reminded of Ares. She nudged her with her elbow and asked, Hey, where's Ares? Wasn't this supposed to be a fated battle? I've waited for 5,000 years to deal with him, and all I did was hit two muscleheads. I didn't even hit him twice, and he's gone? He's trapped by my spell. With his ability, he will definitely come out. However, the flow of time is different inside and outside, and You're dead meat. Before she could finish her sentence, a blood-red halo flashed past, and Ares jumped out with two big swords in his hands. Thea had the chosen one talent that prevented her from being ambushed in the dark. She had been guarding against Ares for a long time, so she jumped away without hesitation. Diana was furious, and when she saw Ares jump out, she swung her shield at him without hesitation. Bam! A muffled sound rang out as Ares was sent flying for more than 5 meters. Huh? Thea, who had been chased by Ares for more than 10 minutes, had the right to comment on Ares' strength. This guy seemed to have weakened a lot. However, before she could think about it, a dark gray minotaur in leather armor jumped out of the red halo with a big axe in its hand. Minotaur, quick! Attack the one that can fly with me. Ares ignored Diana as usual, and was ready to kill Thea first. Just as Thea was about to jump into the air to avoid the attack, she heard the Minotaur whisper in a voice that did not match his image. Why? Won't our mission be completed if we send you out of the maze? Eh? When the Minotaur opened its mouth, its voice was weak. Thea then realized that the Minotaur was actually a cow. It seemed that Ares had spent a lot of effort to deal with her, but it seemed that this creature was not on the same side as Ares. Sure enough, Ares almost fainted when he heard Cow's words. His current appearance was far from good. His helmet was gone, and burn marks could be seen on the left side of his face. The armor on his body was also severely damaged. The damage caused by the maze spell was much greater than Thea had imagined. Originally, this spell required the mage to construct a maze with their own magic power. The higher the mage's intelligence and magic power, the larger the maze. The spell that Thea had passed down was more of a divine spell than a spell. She didn't have to worry about the construction of the labyrinth, the most crucial part of the spell. The goddess had already built it. Of course, this maze was not built solely for Thea. It was a maze shared by all the chosen and high-grade priests. Since it was built by the goddess herself, it fully embodied the characteristics of several divine powers. Big, wide, deep. The goddess was quite nice to the believers under her care. Whenever there was an enemy that the believers could not defeat, they could throw them in. After that, the goddess would suck the enemy into her divine kingdom and deal with them personally. Artemis was the goddess of the hunt. With the restless nature of the Greek gods, she often wandered in the multiverse. Whenever she saw a small animal with a strange skeleton, she would throw it into the dimension and slowly train it when she had time. For the goddess in her prime, small animals were definitely not little rabbits or kittens. However, this goddess was a little forgetful, and the twilight of the gods came a little too quickly. The powerful monsters in the dimension were not cleaned up by anyone, and they multiplied automatically. When Comrade Ares was pulled into the maze, he happened to encounter 3 small animals. They were 3 black dragons that were known for their bad tempers. Their leader, Daddy Dragon, was at least 100 meters long. Daddy Dragon was in the cave teaching young Master Dragon how to hunt. A cloud of black fog flashed, and Ares was thrown out with a spear. Daddy Dragon did not even see the appearance of the person who came, and he spat out a mouthful of fire. Mommy Dragon and young Master Dragon followed closely behind, and they greeted Ares with their claws and fangs. Poor old cripple Comrade Ares. Thea had just pierced a big hole in his chest, and then he was sucked into this damned dimension. The dimension passage had not been repaired for a long time, and he was thrown out while stumbling. Then, he encountered a family of 3 who took advantage of the situation to rob him. Ares was enraged. A tiger that fell from the sky would be bullied by dogs. He did not have time to repair his body, so he threw away the spear and swapped it for 2 big swords. He slashed left and right, and fought a bloody battle with the family of 3. After leaving Thea's discriminating barrier, Ares recovered some of his strength. With the help of his superb martial arts and divine power, he finally cut the family of 3 into 18 pieces at the cost of minor injuries. He did not know whether these evil dragons were Thea, but at least he had vented his anger. When he looked around, he realized that he didn't know where he was. Although he had the memories of the god of war's original body, his original body was a pure warrior god. The few high-end spells that he knew in the later stages were only things like earthquakes and meteorites. His original body didn't care for such a labyrinthine spell. It was also the first time that he had seen such a labyrinthine spell. Silently, he used his divine power to heal the damage on his body. After checking his body, he felt a little bitter. He only had 60% of his divine power left. When he cut down a school of flying fish and a lion as big as a mountain, he finally understood the principle of the spell. Isn't it just a maze? What's so great about it? He did not know that the vision of his original body was blocked by the gods. He tried to contact his original body several times, but there was no response. Helplessly, he could only use his own divine power to summon the descendants of Minos from the holy kingdom of Hades, who was on good terms with him and was excluded from the position of the 12 main gods. He used their racial talents to escape from the maze. In order to teach Thea an unforgettable lesson, he specially chose a cow. However, he guessed the beginning correctly but not the ending. This cow looked honest, but he did not expect her to be an idiot. Her intention to refuse to participate in the battle was obvious. "How dare you betray me?" Ares did not have a good day today. Now he felt that his eyes were about to explode. It was all because of these guys. The heifer rolled its eyes nonchalantly and ignored Ares with its axe on its shoulder. Although Ares was angry, he really did not have the means to restrain the little cow. The little cow's boss was Hades, and she was only following him to help. After defeating Diana with difficulty, he was now covered by Thea's enchantment again. His strength was less than half of what it was at the beginning. He originally had a good chance of winning the battle, but in the end, he spent all his divine power inexplicably. Now he could not defeat Diana with his own strength, so he could only use his rich combat skills to stabilize the situation. Ares thought left and right. This swaying little cow was his only way to win. He dodged Thea's magic arrow and used his skillful combat skills to throw Diana far away. He stood still for a few seconds. When he regained consciousness, a golden contract appeared in his hand. He waved it at the little cow. The contract of Hades. As long as you help me defeat them, you will be completely free.